We'll see what is object serialization with example and some explanation and usage of object serialization. So to start with, what is object serialization? Object serialization is basically converting your Java object into byte. These bytes can be transferred over network or can be stored into file. Similar to serialization, we have deserialization, which is a reverse of serialization. We can convert bytes into Java objects. Let's understand the real world use of serialization with this design, and then we'll go to Java code. So as you see here, I have a Java object, a Pojo, which has some fields, name, account number, and balance. So whenever you create object of account holder in your JVM, you will create this object on memory and which exists inside JVM. But what if you are entering some information in the ATM and you want to withdraw amount, withdraw some money, or check your balance or do any operations? So this ATM has to connect to your bank, which is located remotely. The servers are located remotely, and you need to transfer this information to bank. And this information can be used for validation, authentication, authorization, and getting your information and returning back that information. So usually this information, the Java object itself, doesn't exist outside JVM. So to make sure that we transfer this information to remote location over network, or if you want to store this information outside JVM in a file or in a database, you have to use the concept of serialization. So what happens is when we serialize this object, we can transfer this object on network, and in bank side, this bytes will be deserialized, the object will be recreated the same way how we sent it from the ATM. And then bank can use inside the Java application and do all necessary operations. So this is simple use case of object serialization. And in today's world, all the information which goes over APIs or which goes over network has to be serialized and deserialized while going out and while coming in the JVM. Let's understand object serialization with help of Java code. So I have a bank demo class which we will use for creating serializing object. And I have a Pojo account holder. This object will be serialized. So you can see I have three fields in this class: name, account number, and balance. We have constructor to create the object of account holder, and we have toString method just for printing the content of this object in our demo. Let's go line by line. First, I created object of account holder called as first user using the constructor and pass the parameters. Next, we print the state of object. As you see, we have overridden the toString method in account holder class. At line number 11, the actual logic for object serialization has been started. First, we create object of file output stream and pass file name. File output stream is an output stream for writing data to a file. So our file is just a file name. Next, we create object output stream. Object output stream writes primitive data types and our custom objects to an output stream. So we pass file output stream as a parameter. So once you have these two objects created, then you can just call the write object method of object output stream and pass in the object which you want to write. So what happens is we pass this object, first user object output stream, and file output stream will write this object to file name which you have passed. So here we have just passed a file name. You can give any meaningful name. Finally, we close our object output stream. Close is just to release the resources. We don't need to hold resources related to this object output stream. So we are closing these resources. Let's go ahead and execute this class. Let's check our output line by line. On the first line, we printed contents of our object, the state of our object, which is okay. Next line, we see an exception in thread main, which is not serializable exception. So this exception has occurred because we are trying to serialize the object using the write object method, but write object method has rule that it can serialize only objects which has interface serializable implemented. Account holder is not implementing serializable interface. That's the reason why we see non-serializable exception. So just implement serializable. So now we implemented serializable. Let's rerun our program. There you go. No error. The exception is gone because now we could write this object into the file. So if you see in the project directory here, our file is created. Remember that this file is not for human reading purpose. So you will see content which you cannot read. So the purpose of this file is for JVM to read this file. We can do deserialization process for reading content of this file. From line number 16 to 20 is the logic for deserialization. What deserialization means is we will read content of file which we just serialized, this content, into a Java object. And the requirement for this process is first you need to create a file input stream. File input stream will read input bytes from the file So we pass the file name which we want to read, and after that we create an object input stream. So object input stream deserializes the primitive data types on objects, and we pass the file input stream as a parameter to the constructor. And line number 18 is the actual deserialization process where we call the read object method. We cast our object which we want to deserialize this file's information into the object. So let's go ahead and execute this program once again and see what happens. Alright, so first we serialized, and after serialization we deserialized. So this is deserialization from the file. So line number 19 is printed here, and we have recreated the object which is in the file. So there is a popular question interviewer can ask you, like, how do you make sure that some information is serialized and some information is not? For example, I don't want account number to be serialized. You can just use transient keyword to make any field non-serializable. What I mean by non-serializable is basically this information will not be converted into bytes and cannot be written to a file or transferred over network. So now if we run same code once again, and if you focus on the account number, you say null. The reason is because it was not serialized, so file don't have account number anymore. So transient keyword is used to make sure that the information is not serialized. And as a homework, I have a question for you. So the question is, when a parent class is serializable, does child class get serialized? If yes, how you can avoid child class from getting serialized? Please research on this question and write your answer in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching.